Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome back to my reading life. Today I am here to share 8 nonfiction recommendations that will give you that snug November feeling. And by that I mean these books are perfect for cuddling up with on a cold, wet autumn day under a blanket with a hot mug of tea. We're going to explore some cozy memoirs that feel like having a chat with an old friend, a fantastic book about book for all of you bibliophiles out there, my favorite food memoir by my favorite author, and a nonfiction graphic novel travelogue that is completely charming in all the best ways. 3 of the authors in today's videos are my all-time favorites. These are the authors and books that I'm going to be returning to again and again throughout my life. Now, nonfiction is not usually my go-to genre, but I have found the types of nonfiction that really resonate with me, and I'm going to share my favorites here with you today. These are cozy books that show there is joy to be found amidst the chaos of life. Grab a cuppa and let's settle in. Let's start with a book that completely captured my heart earlier this year, and that book is Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton. This is the story of when Chloe, during lockdown, moved back out to the countryside that was familiar to her from childhood, and while living and working out there, on a walk one day, she stumbles upon a baby hare that appears to be abandoned. And at first, Chloe isn't sure what to do. She doesn't really want to interfere with nature's workings in this case, and yet she can't just leave this baby hare to die. She does leave it for a time, but when she goes back to the same spot and finds the baby hare still there, she takes the hare in and cares for it. But she does so in such a way that she wants to maintain the wildness of the hare's nature. So she does not want to make the hare a pet. She does not want to domesticate it. She wants to care for it and yet still allow it to return to the wild. And this is the story of her relationship with that hare and what happens. And this is so wonderfully life-affirming and uplifting and such a fantastic story. I highly recommend it. I actually listened to the audiobook, which I highly recommend, but then I knew I had to get myself a physical copy as soon as I finished it because I knew I was going to want to refer back to certain passages and to come back to this and reread it time and again. I cannot recommend this enough. If you enjoy memoirs written in a narrative nonfiction style, definitely pick up Raising Hair. My next book is another book that both animal lovers and Anglophiles will love, and it is a beloved first book in a series of nonfiction memoirs, and that is, of course, All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. For me personally, no nonfiction book list is complete without James Herriot on it. I find his writing so completely charming. It is heartwarming. It is laugh out loud funny. It is poignant at times. It just encompasses so much heart and all of the ups and downs of living a life. And I cannot recommend this series enough. James Herriot's one of my favorite authors, and this series is one of my very, very favorite nonfiction memoirs of all time. Do not hesitate or sleep on this one. Pick up All Creatures Great and Small if you've never read it. It's amazing. Now we're going to move on to a book that celebrates the joy of books and reading, and that book is Howard's End is on the Landing by Susan Hill. And the subtitle is A Year of Reading from Home. And basically this chronicles a year in Susan Hill's reading life. It's not necessarily done in a chronological fashion. It's really just a series of vignettes or stories or memories that come upon Susan over the course of her reading year. It may be that she stumbles upon a certain book amongst the library in her home, and it suddenly brings a flood of memories that she shares in this very, very lovely and very, very book lover friendly book about books. I cannot recommend this one enough. I have actually never read any of Susan Hill's fiction, but I absolutely love this book. I highly recommend it. It was one my mom gifted to me, and then it sat on my shelf for a couple of years before I finally picked it up, and it was definitely the right book at the right time. But if you love books about books, definitely pick up Howard's End is on the Landing. Next up is a memoir that shows that grace and humor can be found even in the most harrowing of times, and that book is Spam Tomorrow by Verily Anderson. And this is Verily's account of her life during World War II while living in London. During the midst of the Blitz and both before and after that, she gets married right at the start of World War II. And so we follow her and her husband, the birth of their first child, and just sort of all of the both day-to-day life as well as the sometimes harrowing events that happen to them. And yet Verily shares this all with such warmth and humor, and there is a lovely poignancy, but it is always uplifting. And I was completely charmed by this book. So surprising to me. I had no idea what I was going to think of this, but I absolutely loved it. And as soon as I closed the last page, I knew this was going to be a new favorite of mine, and it still is. And in fact, I think I'm due for a reread. If you like books about World War II, this reads almost like a novel, and it is not. It is a nonfiction memoir of Verily's life, and it is outstanding. Now, you may be surprised that a graphic novel made it onto this list, but this charming travelogue is not to be missed, and that is French Milk by Lucy Knisley. This is the most charming graphic novel. This is Lucy's account of the trip that she and her mother took to Paris. Lucy was in her early 20s, and they spent 6 weeks living in Paris. They rented an apartment, and this is just all about their time in Paris, and it's also just about their mother-daughter relationship, and I love both of those pieces together. Lucy talks a lot about the food, and it is just absolutely delightful. Let me show you one of the pictures from inside. It is delightfully interspersed with Lucy's comic drawings along with photographs of their trip, and it is just absolutely pure delight. If you enjoy armchair traveling, do not miss French Milk. It is a quick little read, but it will immerse you in Paris and in Lucy and her mother's life. I wish I could have taken a trip like that at that age with my mom, but at least I get to live vicariously through Lucy and hers. And from Paris, we're going to head back to New York for some of the loveliest vignettes about New York City that I have ever read in Letter from New York by Helene Hanff. And these are a series of actually broadcasts that Helene recorded for the BBC. The radio program originally trialed for 6 months, and it ended up lasting for 6 years. And in each of these 5-minute broadcasts, Helene talked about life in New York, just the very day-to-day life that she was living. And she just brings New York City to life in the best possible way. Also, if you love dogs, there are lots of wonderful stories about dogs in this book, and Helene shares what life is like living in a New York City apartment building. We get to meet some of her eccentric neighbors, go with her on walks in Central Park, meet her very glamorous and kind of exotic friend Arlene, and this is just such a lovely book. And if you want a glimpse of what life in New York City was like in the 1970s, then definitely pick up Letter from New York. Where are my fellow list lovers? If you enjoy reading books of lists or making lists, then this is the nonfiction book for you, and that book is Endangered Pleasures by Barbara Holland. The subtitle is In Defense of Naps, Bacon, Martinis, Profanity, and Other Indulgences. And every chapter in this book talks about an endangered pleasure, some of which, of course, she mentions here on the cover. And it is just such a lovely way of looking at those little, small, everyday things that make life what it is and make it worth living. Enjoying a good afternoon nap, or a cup of coffee, or traveling, or just staying in bed. All of these things that make up a life, Barbara Holland puts the spotlight on each one of them in these chapters, and this is just such a lovely, lovely book. I will say there are a few references that are maybe a little bit dated in this, but it is still overall such a lovely, lovely book. And I've had this book for years. I dip in and out of it just when I need a little pick-me-up or something to put a smile on my face. And if that's what you need, then you need Endangered Pleasures. And finally, my last book is actually a 2 for the price of 1. These books are by my very favorite author who writes about food in the most deliciously charming way, and they are Home Cooking and More Home Cooking by Laurie Colwin. I don't even know where to start with these 2 books. They are my favorite food memoirs of all time. I absolutely love them. We get Laurie Colwin's delicious prose. Delicious is the only way I can use to describe it. And she talks about food. She talks about her life in relationship to food and the different stages that she's going through. She does include some recipes in each of these books, and it is just the most charming and lovely food memoirs. They definitely evoke a certain period of time. Again, that 1970s New York City lifestyle. A little bit of a connection here to Letter from New York by Helene Hand. But Laurie just has her own way with words when it comes to food. And I just think there are few authors out there that make me want to read about food. Even if it's food I don't particularly want to eat, I still think Laurie Colwin describes it in such a lovely and charming way. If you have never read these and you enjoy food memoirs, you must pick them up. They're one of the first food memoirs out there, and they are well worth your time. And those are the 8 nonfiction books that I recommend for having a snug November of reading. And I would love to chat with you in the comments. Are you going to give any of these books a try? Have you read any of these and already loved them? And what are some of your favorite nonfiction books that give you that cozy, snug feeling? I would love to have your recommendations down in the comments. I could have added so many more books to this list, so maybe I'll have to do a part 2 of this at some point. But it was so much fun to look through my nonfiction stack of books, and I actually have so many favorite nonfiction books because I'm very picky about my nonfiction, and so therefore I really hone in on the types of nonfiction that I really enjoy, and I have kind of found my sweet spot, and so I've lucked into reading some really wonderful books. But I would love to chat with you in the comments about all things nonfiction. And if you're here but you don't have anything that you'd like to add, but you'd like to let me know you were here because comments really do help my channel, then I would love for you to leave a food-related emoji, since a number of the books in this stack have to do with food in some way, shape, or form. So leave me your favorite food emojis down in the comments. I love seeing those and knowing that you were here, and they really do help my channel, as do likes and subscribe. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love if you would hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos from me. And thank you so much for being here, for spending time with me in my cozy corner of booktube, for leaving such lovely comments on all of my videos. I love chatting with all of you down there. And as always, I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye.